favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the part C of this, non-union step raises after this year's union negotiations. So following that, I would like to give all non-union employees in my department just a one-time step raise. The union's getting one at the same time. This would not include myself. It'd just be all the other non-union employees. And what I'd like to give them is $1.50 an hour, and that will keep our union, non-union pay scales roughly the same yet. So,
You've got that built in your budget.
and that is built in the budget, and it would not start until July 1st or the beginning of the 26th fiscal year.
Motion to approve
Is that
the,
before or after the COLA? Do you get COLA?
Cost of living?
It would be before is the way the union is written, so this would be before. The $1.50 and then the cost of living goes on top.
I'll make a motion then to approve the non-union step wages as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. I'm just,
All in trying to keep and
Yeah,
maintain employees,
right,
right?
right.
the pay scale is a tough thing to keep, and
It's-
we need to be competitive.
An interesting part, and we do have good employees overall. You know, I appreciate everything everyone does. And just glad they're willing to work, so
Right.
it helps. Just a couple of quick updates of where we're at and what we're doing. I know we've talked about the pipe we had sleeved on 900th west of Aspen. We got all the riprap placed in the outlet and slurried last night, so hopefully before the rain, everything stayed in place. We should be better than the last big rain we had. All I have left to do there is dress up the site. We are going to pour a collar around the drop inlet. There was some pretty severe erosion, so pour a concrete collar, get that done. Following that, we're going to do some ditching right in that area within, a couple of miles or so. There is a couple of smaller cross pipes also that need to be changed. So we'll hit those while we're there and, excuse me, move on to our next project with that excavator, which I believe is Dogwood Loop is where we're going after that. So still be in the southwestern part of the county, west-southwest. So that's where the one excavator is. The other one just moved to 1400 Street west of M56. There's a failing wood box culvert there that is in very poor shape. That was a project that didn't get done last year, so we'll start on that. It'll be replaced with a new 84-inch CMP metal culvert. We closed the road yesterday and it will be closed until further notice. So get going on that. Should go pretty straightforward. It'll take a little while to get everything torn out and hauled away to Carroll from what's existing, but shouldn't be too bad. The bridge crew will be moving to Mulberry Road. I know we talked about that last time. Mulberry north of 200th to start that bridge rehabilitation. Probably next week, maybe midweek, we'll close the road. It just depends how the weather treats us here the rest of this week. They are trying to get a few other minor things accomplished before they get up there. So the bridge they pulled out on umbrella and replaced with the pipe, it did get completed, and so that was a good deal there to have done also. Other than that, we are out rocking weak spots as normal throughout the county, blading, etc. Now with the moisture, hopefully we can do a little more hard blading on some of the washboarded spots. So hopefully see a few changes there. But other than that, that's what we're doing.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Todd Feline, Chamber Report.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Nice day for the gardens.
Yes.
Although my poor church group has kids at camp right now, and they're all, so you got a bunch of rambunctious kids in a building because they can't go outside. So, yeah.
Kids that go outside, they won't care.
Yeah, they probably won't care, yeah. So just a few dates to note, starting with June 20th, Friday, that's the Shelby County Golf Outing. This year we're going to have it out at the North Course. We're really looking forward to that course. When we went out there and did the ribbon cutting, everything looks wonderful, so it should be a great event. It's a 4-person scramble, and folks can call us at 755-2114 to get their team reservations in. We also have some whole sponsorships and sidewalk sponsorships available for any businesses that want to do that. This week, FMCTC is having their summer picnic throughout the county. So actually today from 5 to 7 at St. Boniface Parish Hall in Westphalia, they'll be there, and they'll be in Portsmouth tomorrow from 5 to 7, and finally they'll be in Harlan from 5 to 7 at Vets on Thursday. So they're inviting everyone to come out and enjoy some Pizza Ranch chicken and celebrate their annual customer appreciation. The Harlan Theater Summer Kids Free Movies are kicking off next week. So those happen every Tuesday and Wednesday at 10 o'clock. The movie next week will be The Wild Robot. And of course, these are all free. You have to have a ticket, but there's a bunch of businesses in town that carry those tickets, and you can find that out on their social media. Or actually, the businesses also have signs in their windows to let people know that they have those tickets. We do have a blood drive coming up on Monday, June 23rd from 8 to 2 at Mertu Medical's Oval Room. And it just seems like over the last 4 or 5 years, the message is if you can donate, please do, because it seems like our blood supply has been low for quite some time across the country. So hopefully people will get out and donate. And then last thing is Friday, June 27th at 2 o'clock. We're excited to have a ribbon cutting at Sunset Scoops. They wanted to wait till they got all their equipment in, got everything set up, and they finally have gotten that done. So it's going to be enjoyable to go there, and of course very tasty too, because you can have some ice cream over there. So, but that's about it for the chamber today.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, Todd, thanks. Oh no, one more thing I forgot. Tomorrow night is our tornado presentation at the Turkleson Center. That starts at 6:30. Like I said, we got a great panel set up for that. We took a lot of care in picking tomorrow night to make sure that we could get the best night where there weren't a whole lot of other things going on as far as kids sports and things like that. So really hoping people come out. There's going to be some great information. And even like last night, you know, I was talking to Michelle on the radio yesterday, and I know it was slight, but 2 o'clock in the morning, if we would have had a situation, there's no worse time to have something like that happen than 2 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully people will come out, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to it, because there's going to be a lot of really great stuff there.
I was up here for Relay for Life, and I would, just a suggestion, maybe they ought to check to see if there's ball games that day. They might have better.
Yeah, I know they always schedule it at the same time every year. I was happy with Art in the Park on Sunday. We had a good steady flow. It wasn't like a big mob, but it was a good steady flow. I was up at the very end handing out watermelons, so I think a lot of people went across the street to the log cabin days, but I couldn't see, so I'm not really sure. But gave away a lot of watermelon though, and had one little boy come up about the 4th time, and he told me, he goes, "I'm your #1 customer." I said, "You bet. Take as much watermelon as you want, because I don't want to take it home." So, yeah. So it was fun. All right.
Thanks, Todd. Kyle Lindberg, request for opioid funds.
Good morning.
Morning.
How's everybody doing today?
How are you?
It's so awkward to see you in the galley area. I am great on this lovely rainy morning, which is much needed. So, okay, I am here real quick to request. I will put this out. This is going to be going for the upcoming fiscal year of 2026. So not this current fiscal year, because we've already done budget amendments. I have been working with Mike and Chase from the Sheriff app, also known as OCB, since our initial meeting of December of last year. Been working on getting and obtaining. What I'm going to hand you out here is just a little bit brief of the Sheriff's app. This is an app that they create for our agency. A little bit of background on this. Basically what this is custom tailored to your actual agency. So right now, if you look on that map, you're going to show on the second page of this, it's going to show you there's like 17 counties that are actually currently using this. That is from December of last year. They've added like 12 more since then. We're hoping that Shelby County could be the 13th one to be added onto this. Request for use for opioid funding is because we've labeled the top 10 reasons for justification of use of this in settlement funds, because I know we're in the process of currently redoing our webpage to bring it to the state of art. But one thing for getting out for public prevention and education within opioid-related crises and information within the public safety, which is kind of geared what they want the opioid use dollars to be used for. Everybody has one of these in their hands. I'm not saying anybody likes to go out to look at a website, but as far as this is a completely customizable app that we can utilize, that we can put out information, all of our public resources, all the inmate information, treatment information, local treatment facilities, all the way to the state level, all the way to the federal level, at your fingertips. And it's also going to add the information. They're going to tie in our inmate active list, the sheriff's office information as well too. There's so many additions that we can utilize through this app to basically get out for public information. So obviously, give you a little back history on this. I think, what is our total county population? A little over 11,500, give or take. We have mobile patrol that was put out by APRIS back in 2014. That is the information that's on the app that basically you can get the current inmate listing that's updated every like 12 minutes within. We have over 28,000 active registered people following Shelby County Sheriff's Office and jail for inmate notifications. So when you're looking at ways to get information out to the public, whether, a new opioid, a new fentanyl, new drug classification comes in, even as much as like in with weather alerts and things like that. I mean, if you guys have all familiar to use apps before, you can turn the notifications on, you can turn the notifications on. But as far as then within the opioid treatment portion of this, I mean, I really don't have to read it, but I mean, basically they just state that, it's enhanced community outreach, there's reporting concerns, access to all the treatment resources, public health education, which is a huge thing in the opioids because the drug classifications are always changing. No offense to the cartels and the drug manufacturers are always coming out with something new, and everybody's always chasing that next high. So anytime we can put public information ahead of time prior to it hitting our county, is a great thing. So anonymous tip submission, to help with community policing efforts. The biggest thing about this is the opioid crisis information hub. That's a federal database that's been created that's basically tiered with all these apps that are customized to your agency that has thousands of resources. That access to it, and the access is at your fingertips. So response coordination, whether we tag in with like EMS and EMA, the opioid crisis response, if we were to have an opioid overdose in our jail, that type of information could be relayed as well. And the main thing, obviously, like it states, is transparency and accountability to the public. So, and working with Mike and them, I'm just going to put this out here. So basically, there was two ways that when I was speaking with Sheriff Gross that I was going to approach this. I was basically looking for opioid funds for half of it, and then the jail revenue for you paying for the support of it up front. But I'm actually requesting and looking at this, and already meeting with Taryn for the funds availability, which are available in the amount of it's $12,703.75. Now there's four portions of that if you see on that price breakdown. Basically, initially up front, the mobile app development for iOS and Androids, and then we have that annual support portion of it, which is the second part. And then it also ties in our inmate search integration, so the active inmate tool. And then another added benefit that gives us is the sex offender registry on top of what already out there for the state. So digital marketing, everything else comes with that included price. But my plan is for continuing the annual support would be using opioid for the initial upfront cost, and then using jail revenue for paying for the maintenance aspect of it, the billing of the $44.95.
How long into the future will we be getting opioid money?
I'm gonna recruit you back into this one. It was back when Sheriff Gross and Steve and I met originally. It was a certain dollar amount, I believe, up to was it 7? It was like 17 years, give or take, I think is what it was. There was no certain dollar amount that was awarded to like Shelby County, because basically meeting with Taryn, it's like basically at the beginning of the fiscal year we get a chunk of change in there.
It's been going up.
It's been going up tremendously. So, in initial meeting, I know what they wanted to do. Like when Steve first approached me about this back when he was on the chair, was they want it obviously to be used towards public safety and for treatment and prevention is what we're utilizing it for. So we've utilized some of the funds in the past and previous things we've asked for the treatment prevention, other things. So basically, I can't give you an exact answer how long it's gonna go for, but I think we're in year 3 of this now. Would be this, yeah, the 3rd year. We're your first year, but we had 2 years because I would go back to 23 when we initially requested for drug drop box and a couple other products for use within the jail for medication.
There's so much per year that comes to us.
Yeah, there's no, I think overall dollar figure, I mean, there's no set that says like Shelby County gets 100,000 next fiscal year. I think when you look back, I mean, there was random deposits here and there. We have secured the fact that I have verified that there is this amount to cover this, and it will not deplete the
I
account.
assume other agencies also use it, public health. And
Correct. Public health has come to us, MERTU, and then also like Manning, Recovery. Tay has come up and asked for requests because obviously they serve Shelby County as well within that too. So the correct protocol is obviously is not just to spend it like an open checking account, is obviously to come seek board approval in reference to what we're spending it on. As long as it ties in with the aspect of the opioid treatment and public education and prevention. So public safety is kind of at the top of the list. There's a whole, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. Mark Maxwell, way back when he was the auditor, there's like a 68-page contract document that states like how the disbursement of funds. There is a report that we had to fill out at the end of the fiscal year that states this is what we spent the money on. This is the reason or justification of why. So we've purchased restraints, we've purchased Narcan, we've purchased additional things with that opioid money for use for the deputies. The fact that there's 18 of them now. So altogether, I think I probably used about $5,800 of it in the jail. I believe the sheriff has probably used about $6,000 to $7,000, give or take, for adequately supplying his deputies with the necessary means of people in opioid crisis, because opioids are a real thing, you know what I mean? And for those of you who have not, I mean, we've been behind the scenes of a jail aspect. You want to see somebody go through an opioid withdrawal, it's not a fun thing to watch. So, you know, we're always there for looking for the training and tools and the stuff that we can do to help prevent, or, you know, I mean, obviously, prevention, well, 100% prevention would be the key thing, but unfortunately, we're not going to win the war on drugs, so.
No, I think this is a great use of that money.
You know.
You looking for a motion then, or?
I would look for a motion to approve, like I said, just for FYI, this would not be on this current fiscal year, this would be the purchase, to sign it, and then we will pay for it in fiscal year 26, so basically, we'll be getting funds after July 1.
Your jail revenue would.
The jail revenue, I would, and
$5,000.
I would use the jail revenue, correct, that would come in either through jail commissary or the jail room board. It's probably jail commissary, because I can use jail commissary for funds for things like related to that for Iowa code, and I would cover the $44.95 right around that.
We have, it's usually not the upfront cost,
Yeah.
it's the ongoing.
It's the maintenance. Well, that's one thing I told Chase. I mean, that's like, you know, that's how they get you on things. Sometimes they make it a sweet package deal within the maintenance, and they're right up front with you. And basically, we can control things. They do the support aspect too, but like if Sheriff Groves wants to log on to the app with admin control, he can go in, he can push a push notification out to all, let's say 20,000 registered users, say, hey, this is going on.
Is this a multi-year contract, or can they change that rate?
This is priced for a period, it's 3 years. So basically, this, I mean, this $44.95 is the only thing that I would pay next year for it annually. This is the mobile app development is the upfront cost.
Yep.
And then these two, the 945 and the 522 are, so basically, we're about 6,700 or 5,900 for annual subtotal.
So like next year,
years.
if we have the funds in the account, you could apply for that.
I could apply for that, correct, but, you know, I mean, to be fair, Terry, I don't want to hog all the funds. I just, we looked at this both ways. Basically, we thought about it, I was like, it might not be the right timing for it, but the aspect that we are seeing more and more and more opioid crisis events related within the jail for people with addictions, which I'll get into when I go to my department head report from our post-jail inspection. The ability to, so that's why we need to probably secure and get this going. I mean, if we can say we did our part in step on prevention, at least to say we get it out there and get the information out to the public, because number one thing about anything is public education is key. So, I mean,
A marketing plan to let people know how to
Correct.
download the apps.
so yep, there's a digital marketing plan that's included. There's an additional one we could purchase where they could actually send stuff, and I mean, but they make basically a bunch of digital things that we can put on our social media, to the local newspaper and outlets and like that to get that information out. Like I said, when we went live with Mobile Patrol in 2015, give or take, we were like 1,000, and within a year, I mean, like we're at 28,000. I mean, that's double or almost triple our countywide population.
You
So.
still have the mobile patrol.
Correct. Mobile Patrol has been purchased, yeah. It actually went from Apris to Motorola, and then now it's Equifax that owns it. So, I mean, whatever Equifax has their money in it, but it's It's still a good platform. It's one of the most highly sought after. I mean, basically what it just gives you is what inmates are currently in custody and what they were, and when they were released. Basically, our new website that we just went live with Harlan Business Solutions ties in our active inmate warrant list and our active
Plan on
inmate
keeping
list.
the other app also?
Correct.
So if you'll-
Well,
Mobile plus Facebook plus web?
so we're
Seems
not.
like a lot of,
No, so basically what the through Harlan Business Solutions is like, I'm gonna go technical, it's Power BI. So basically that's live data that's pulling from our Shieldverse server that basically, it's not a mobile app. Basically you have to go to our website, click on the link, and it just loads into a web page. They will integrate that into a portion of our app, so it's not like,
So the other one's
it's
not
just
an actual app.
yeah, it's not an actual app. No, this is the reason why this is just the app portion of it. The rest of it's all web-based, through that, so.
Can we have a motion to approve the sheriff.app.com with opioid funds?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect.
Thank you, Kyle.
Appreciate that. We need to follow agenda protocol. You want me to give department report where I'm up here? We can follow agenda. I can stay around.
Okay, sounds good. Is Kenny Hansen out there?
Yep.
All right, come on up, Kenny.
To the hot seat. Big shoes to follow.
Kenny is our new EMS director, and this will be his first report. So,
Mike Colby.
Nice to meet you.
we met.
Welcome.
So it's a little brief update. It's my first time doing this, so see how it goes. But
We don't mind.
we're on track this year to do just about 1,400 calls. It'll be about 400 transfers total. So from a budgeting standpoint, we're bumping the limit on that, but we're over budget on building expenses. But that's due to the extra transfers and additional revenue that's created, which is a kind of good thing. Look at it that way. So. We're hiring for 2 open paramedic spots right now. We've offered 3 people peer interviews, kind of the second step in the process, where we'll come do ride-alongs with our crews, get to know each other, and have some crew input on who we hire and make sure that you're going to fit them all to the department. Hopefully we get those filled and I'll kind of help eliminate all that overtime concern there.
Excellent.
I've been working with the state of Iowa to update some policies and some protocols and get compliant with some things that we're lacking. So that's all kind of in place. So we should have that all finalized by the end of June and be fully credentialed to operate at the highest level possible shortly, starting in July going forward. One of my goals when I got in here was just kind of doing some operational redevelopment and daily planning stuff where we can get more organized, assigning leadership roles to certain daily tasks and just trying to streamline it so that people have one person to go to with some different events, stuff like that. What else I got on my agenda here for you? We're looking at adding an ambulance addendum to be incorporated into the county handbook that applies to the ambulance department specifically with the 24-hour shifts and the increased hours they work annually. So that's one thing I'm kind of working on drafting to present to you guys at a later date. To include in that sort of more accurately more accurate representation of our department. What do we got here? Equipment building needs. We're looking at purchasing some new ambulances. So they've got some bids from a couple dealers that come up with some demos. They've looked at them, trying to figure out what's going to fit best with that and then how we can do it from a budgeting standpoint to be financially responsible and replace what is a very, very worn fleet that needs addressed immediately. So that's one of our other goals too.
What's the cost on one of them?
A new one now? They're getting up there almost 400,000 for new
I figured
ones.
that.
You can find some demos that are around 300,000, but by the time you put new power loads, power cots, stuff in there, that's another 150,000. So we've got some options for like a leasing option on that, and then getting on like a 4-year rotation where we could get 2 new ones now, and then in 4 years have a new one show up in fiscal year 29-30, and capital budget for that with hopefully some carryover for generating a little additional revenue. So that would ensure that we have adequate equipment and kind of incorporate some new equipment that's outdated, that's no longer supported by some of the manufacturers too. So along that line too, we've also secured about $20,000 in grant funds in the last month. So some of it's 100% and some of it's 50% match. So got some new equipment coming that way too. So, and I'm also looking into getting enrolled in the GEMT program, which it provides additional income for Medicaid, Medicare claims. And there's an offset program that we can apply for with the state of Iowa that helps cover some of the unpaid reimbursements, which is actually surprisingly low. When I talked to PCC, there's most of the bills that were submitted are being paid, so. Any questions for me?
You can tell he's hit the floor running, and excited to have you. Appreciate it.
I'm sure Chair inspired me.
Yeah, it's a learning process, but you're doing great, and appreciate having you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good week, guys.
All right, take care. Okay, consider approval of ballpark to ballpark trail maintenance agreement 2025-16-100 between Iowa DOT and Shelby County Board of Supervisors. Bob Munson. And also Mike Colby is on that board, so he can share some information on it.
Yes, this is very similar to the work on right-of-way permit that we had executed for the original portion of the trail that's already done. And in that case, there was no federal money involved, and a simple resolution from the Conservation Board that they would take over maintenance of that portion was sufficient. That is the difference between no federal money and federal money. Now they want it through the actual county to say that they would maintain it. And I want to assure the board that we are talking about just maintenance. Now, we have a problem on the originally installed portion, partly due to an engineering oversight and partly due to actions of an adjacent landowner. But we're treating this as a fault in construction, and we are spending the money to correct that ourselves. This is not going to come back to the county as an additional expense. And that is the attitude that we will carry forward as we get this new section in. If there's a problem with construction of any type, we will take action to handle it. And basically, the Conservation Board has done a little hydro seeding. They've been over and mowed a couple spots, etc. You know, that is basically all that they have been required to do. And the portion within the city limits of Panama, the Panama City Council has stated they are going to take care of anything there. So it's a situation that it's necessary due to the type of funding. And I want to assure that the board understands that we are talking about just simple upkeep, not major repairs due to some type of engineering failure.
Snow removal was on that also, wasn't it, Bob? Do I remember reading the resolution?
Yes, snow removal was on that as well, and that is something that basically, if we declare that when there is sufficient snow cover, that it can be used by snowmobiles, it's not necessary.
So that might only be if there was an event planned or something in the spring and you had snow and you might want to get snow off it or something. But you generally wouldn't have to clear it every snowfall.
No, generally
That was my
we
one.
would not. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple local folks that really like to see a little snow on it because they like to cross-country ski on it. So it's pretty minimal in what we're asking for, but it's a necessary step in order to move forward.
And I did talk to Nick too, and he's all on board with it, and so that fits right into the Conservation Department's mission.
I remember when he agreed to it, so.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve agreement 2025-16-100?
Motion.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks for the explanation.
And we'll just keep on trying to put down concrete.
Need more trails. Absolutely. Okay, consider approval of fiscal sponsorship of Shelby County Fair lease for equipment. You want an update on that?
This is between Van Wall and the Fair Board, which they did last year too. But they are asking Shelby County to be fiscal sponsor for the lease agreement.
Okay. And we did that last year, everything worked great, so.
It's just a pass-through account, right?
There's no expense by the county.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair gets a free tractor to use, I think through race season also, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, yeah, it doesn't cost us anything, so. Kind of a no-brainer, but can we have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Committee
Oh,
reports.
so you need to be on the signature.
Oh, that's right.
Signature card.
We need a motion to approve Taryn to be able to sign all of those documents for the fair lease.
Motion approved.
Second that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Committee reports. Mike, you have any?
A couple of meetings, but nothing significant came out of them, just information only.
End of the month, there's not a lot of meetings going on.
Our safety committee meeting was last Wednesday. The main topic that was discussed was the no hands bill that's passed for January and what we were going to do. Now the utilities were approved to do it, and I don't understand why the county is not in there either, so I don't know how it's
Approved to do what?
like the radios you can't
Oh,
do
okay.
your hands.
Oh, hands-free.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Or-
In your
or-
car, in your automobile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So utilities can do it, but county
Right.
roads were not into that. Okay.
And it's concerned.
I think we talked with Chris about some hands-free headsets possibly being made available.
That, I said even updating our radio system now that the rest of the county is on a different radio system. I mean, we still need radios,
Yeah.
but it sounded like each unit there, you're talking $7,000 and we probably have 60 radios, I don't know, something like that. So there's going to be a large expense coming up
Yes.
either way as far as that also, so.
Right.
And whatever we can do to minimize this, because you can't use radios either unless they're hands-free.
Suppose there's grant dollars out there for something like that?
I don't know how the road department would fare.
Yeah.
Probably not high on the chain of
Not public safety
need.
oriented, yeah. Well,
So-
they could make a case that it's public safety in the wintertime.
Yes.
Well, if the vehicle is not moving.
Then you can talk.
You can use them, okay, okay. So I might just have to do some training where you gotta pull over.
Right, or see what we can do
So we
temporarily.
got till January to figure it out, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But something to look ahead at.
Sure, okay. Yeah, I don't have anything, didn't have any meetings the end of this month, so. We will move on to department heads, and I see Alex wandering around. Do you have anything on rural water?
He's chomping at the bit.
Well, I never heard radio, so I just, my ears perked up.
There you go.
They were just trying to see if you were out there.
Yeah,
Shouldn't have showed your
say
face.
radio and I appear. Yeah. So I do have a few things on regional water. We had our meeting yesterday. We put out another situational update today, but all of their towers are holding steady at 85%. So they have lifted their, they were at level red, their water conservation. They're now at level yellow, which basically just means it takes off some of the restrictions and of only using water for human consumption and not feeding livestock and other things. But they are still in some level of water restriction as of now. The hot topic at the meeting yesterday with DNR and Regional Water was the boil order. Regional Water has tested all of their towers and their water supply for all contaminants and has come back clean. But DNR policy says that all of the towns that they sell to have to come back clean before they can lift the boil order, which caused some heartburn and some questions from the different EMA coordinators of if, let's say, the town of Tennant, who is served directly from Regional Water, has clean water, why do we have to wait for Exira to test theirs for them to be able to boil order? Just didn't make sense and couldn't get our questions answered. So Long story short, we had about an hour meeting, got a little heated towards the end with DNR and Regional Water and some other stakeholders. And at about 5 o'clock last night, they did lift the boil order for all customers who received their water directly from Regional Water. They were still waiting on 5 towns, and I believe 1, 2, 3, 3 of them are in Shelby County, be Panama, Portsmouth, and Erling, to finish their testing, which should be done within the next couple days, to get those done, and then everybody should be off the boil order once that's completed.
Okay.
So it's moving in the right direction. As far as the Council Bluffs project, they were delayed due to some weather in the last couple weeks. The site that they were going to put the building up for the chemicals that they're going to need to store got muddy, and they couldn't get in there. And then they had some more, they said about 5 miles of pipe that they had to sanitize and pressure test that they had to redo. So they're hoping by the end of this week. Realistically, I think it's probably going to be the middle of next week or
If it was too muddy for them in the last couple of weeks, it's
gonna be muddy again.
More muddy
Yeah.
this week than.
Yeah. So I don't think today got them any further. Yeah.
Excuse.
So I don't see that happening anytime this week or maybe in early next week. I think we're looking at maybe another 2 weeks or something before that's done. But it's moving. They do have the pump on site. Everything's on its way to being hooked up. They just have a few last pieces to finish and should be good to go.
Great.
2 inches of rain, now the burn ban is lifted.
Yeah. Yeah. So
If you can get a fire started, go for it.
no. So we listed the burn ban yesterday, and just so the public knows, the burn ban was in place not just because of the condition, or not really because of the conditions. It was due to the water supply. We just didn't have, all these small towns rely on Regional Water to get their water supply, and we didn't want, one field fire would have just completely gone. We would have no water. So when the towers got back to 85% and they went down to local yellow, we lifted the burn ban with the caveat that if they go back into some more water restrictions, then we'll look at it again. But I did have a lot of questions on that. So yeah.
It's been dry and windy though too, so
Yeah.
it probably would have been in order anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll do it. Thank you,
All right,
Alex.
thanks,
Kyle?
Did I see Kyle again? They're gonna ask for more money.
More money.
Simple update, it's been since March 18th, I believe, since last time I was here on the first quarter. A couple things to give you guys updates as I like to normally do is I would probably have printed off my email, but I think I forgot to actually include it in here. No, I did do it. Okay. As always, I like to give you guys a little updated stats here in reference to the Shelby County Jail. Busy. We'll just kick it off with that. In March 18th, I actually gave you guys an update that we had 271 people processed through our facility. As of today, this morning, we are at 379 because we had one come this morning. So 379 people come to the door. So 93 people since my last update here, basically since March 18th.
You got a big jail over there.
Yeah, we got a busy jail over there. So, Bryce, I think there was maybe some communication issue. I think Delbert Longway had your email incorrect. Did you got that correct one? Did he forward you over the copy of the jail inspection report? I think I responded back to him.
Yeah, I think
He said to me, but and I noticed one thing, he didn't have the C in your last name, so I don't know if Mike or Charlie, if you guys have seen it yet here. So, okay, I tell you what, when I get back to the office, I can forward you over an email copy. He provides it to the chair of the board, the county attorney, the sheriff, myself, and the state. Basically, I'm just going to read kind of what happened. Our inspection happened on the 8th of this year. And he just puts his comments and recommendations here. So just to make this simplified, Shelby County Jail inspection was completed and performed on May 7th, I apologize. Documentation was complete and ready available for inspection. Shelby County Jail is an older facility that is requiring continuous maintenance. The current facility is not user-friendly, is a safety and security concern for prisoners, staff, and for the public, including the ability to properly address the needs of the mentally ill and special need prisoners. Shelby County Jail facility is at the age that it's nearing the end of its life expectancy. It is recommended and continued that Shelby County develop or continue to develop implement a 5 or possible 10-year maintenance or plan to adequately address the sight and sound classification within the jail. And it basically just says policy and procedure manual was reviewed. The policy manual appears to be complete and well written. It was a pleasure to work with the professional staff, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office and jail, and express his appreciation to myself for his assistance and cooperation during the inspection. So this will be the 3rd year that we've had that recommendation as far as putting a 5 to 10 year plan together. It's really being hammered this year because we are dealing with more of our mentally ill, and when you add mentally ill and substance abuse together, I do not have proper placement to take care of these people. Basically, if I have a mentally ill person that comes into our facility and I have to tie up a 6-person cell because they don't play well with others. You know, obviously only being a 14-bed facility now, we're already kind of a smaller facility. We do have the continuance maintenance, you know, that we talked about before. The facility was started constructed was 82 or 83. Yeah, 83. So you know, the over 45-year life expectancy. Average, they say, you know, jail can last you for 50 years. It's a well taken care of jail, and it's kind of almost like a slap in the face, but back in 2018 and 2019 when they were doing the state awards, the best of the best, you know, we took the 25 bed or less division in 2018 and 2019, and then COVID hit and they stopped doing it. But things change, and the ever-evolving change of times. I mean, we deal with more with mental illness and substance abuse, and when you put those two together, it's just it's a recipe for disaster in the way our current setup is.
How old is the jail?
Our jail, started construction in 82, I think it was built in 83, when they demolished the house, and then the jail portion, sheriff's office, then Sheriff, you might have to tell me on this one, but when the lower section, I mean, I guess the jail aspect, and then our lower, where the deputy's office is, was taken over from DHS, I'm not sure, mid-90s, later part 90s, I think. And you guys, I believe, I was gone that day, but you came over and did a tour of our facility. You see the deputies were double stacked in jail. So, I mean, I take pride if we run a tight ship. You know, I require the guys to get up and clean and stuff before they get privileges, you know, to try and maintain. But, you know, we're kind of working with antiquated stuff. Prime example, our facility, our plumbing, is Acorn Manufacturing from the 80s out in California. And a little simple T-valve on one of the handles cost me about $980, and I have to buy them in a 4-pack because they're that old. I mean, and you know, you talk about replacing everything with PEX. Well, in jail's a little different because you have to have stainless steel and security and stuff. So, yeah, so just kind of give me a little rundown on basically on how our jail inspection went. We did get some clarification on a couple things. We are grandfathered in, obviously, with because prior to '84, there have been 7 changes to the state law as far as within the Iowa jail standards of requirements of things that we are to do. So that's why we can't do any major renovation, because if we do any major renovation totaling a certain dollar amount, then we have to bring the whole entire thing up to code, which would be the 2016 and current was the last time that I did it. So, you know, that's kind of a can of worms that I'll get into the last portion of this. So,
Is there, I mean, if we keep kicking this can down the road, is there a point where they could shut us down?
very much so, because, well, we don't want to get there, but it very easily could happen. And when I say this too, we're also looking at liability-wise. You know, if something would happen to, you know, when you want to knock on wood that you don't have that happen, but if we were to have a potential mentally health person, you know, successful suicide or something like that, or assault on another person, liability aspect, we would be open up to liability from the county for a lawsuit aspect, actually, because of the fact that we have been told we need to start looking at a maintenance plan eventually, so for safety of the staff, but also the inmates as well too. So, because I know, and this is a public perception, and this is not saying anything bad to the public, but the public's perception of anybody who goes to jail is just give them bread and water and throw away the key. We can't have that mentality, because even though they are incarcerated and in trouble and have broken the law, they still have rights that we and are bound by jail standards for the state of Iowa that we have to uphold. So, you know, that's kind of the tough sell. And I know that the talk of, you know, possible new facility, looking at other options, like Wade expressed concerns and stuff in reference to that. We'll probably get into that more a little bit later on down the road. I'm just going to go into my next section here. We had a resignation within our full-time jail staff. I had a part-timer that then stepped up to that full-time position, so I will be applying probably after the fiscal year, trying to replace that part-time position so we can maintain fully staffed. The new pay rates go into effect on July 1, which will help tremendously for staff retention. That was per the union and the board approval, so we appreciate you guys working with the union on that. And last but not least, what I was going to basically say is the jail committee, the jail steering committee, basically is what you want to label it. Bryce, I know you were labeled on that here, the sheriff as well, too, Jarvis from the city. We had a meeting originally set up for April 22nd. I canceled that meeting due to the fact that there was some public, I say outcry, but public input from the outside that, hey, that we maybe were a little too government heavy on the aspect side of the committee. Different people, we had set up a public safety email. We wanted to get some clarification on a couple things. Well, I wanted to get through the jail inspection first because that was number one priority, and then we were going to move it off the back burner and bring it back to the front of the jail. So I met with Sheriff Gross. Basically what we're going to do now is with the committee members that are in existence, we are holding a meeting on the June 18th at 1 p.m. at the EMA EOC. Send out a calendar invite. Basically, this committee is just going to be, just a tabletop discussion. It's not going to be a governing body, so therefore we're not going to have any agenda. The prime role or primary goal is to take a step back, talk about a couple things, and then we're going to trim some things off. And like no offense, Tara, but like the finance people, we don't necessarily need the finance people on this right now. We just need basic discussion of saying, hey, do we want to proceed with this? What do we want to look at? How type things, it just basic tabletop discussion. And then go back to the committee and then form eventually to a point in stages where we would look to be ones that would making governing decisions, recommendations going forward. So basically what the departments will be seeking a little bit of discussion, and then we're going to discuss probably into opening it up to getting civilian, civilian outside of our government, and give the opportunity for each town or community within Shelby County that could have representation from their area of the township. So just kind of, like I said, this is nothing that's going to happen overnight. I mean, like you said, we're talking a 5 to 10 year plan. There's some ideas that have been circling around, and then it's unfortunate when you get that aspect because you get some type of people hear things and somebody adds their little add up to the story, and then by the time it gets back to you, it's a completely different story that was told. So, anytime anything to do with the jail, it's going to be a tough sale, but we need to start looking at options to prevent Shelby County from being any type of lawsuit or having any staff injuries and or due to the fact of inadequate structure for handling the current people that are coming through our doors. Because as the sheriff could attest, crime is not stopping. We are dealing with a lot more mentally ill, and there's a lot more drugs that are hitting the streets. And we're trying to secure things for the state for additional training and stuff because we can't stay on top of this. I mean, especially in the mental health. I mean, you can't expect somebody who's coming off the streets with little or no experience working in jail to take an 8-hour mental health first aid class once every 3 years and stay on top of everything that's current. So big push at the state level too to start adding some more additional training for those who are going into this line of work. So I'm thankful for the staff I have. I mean, we're great and thankful for the working relationship with you guys and the sheriff to be able to do the things that we do. But we're keeping, like you said, the kind of the can down. We need to start having these serious discussions. So
Agreed.
yep, that's all I got. Any questions for me? All right,
Thanks, Kyle.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Department heads? Neil?
I do.
Okay. Morning.
Morning.
I don't have too much, but I got a few things here to give you guys.
Recently, we've been doing a bunch of scam prevention awareness presentations. I don't know if you saw that on some of our Facebook posts, but we partnered with Shelby County State Bank. We've done one at the library. I know they did one at Methodist Church a couple weeks ago. And then last week, Captain Butler and I were out at the Wellness Center. They had a pretty good deal going on out there. We just handed out some flyers and spoke to some people on it. And if we can get ahead of it and stop it before it happens, it'd be much better. So we're trying to give the education side a bigger push right now, and hopefully there's less we have to follow up with down the road as we do that. And I think it has been helping. I've had a lot of people come in and say, hey, I got this text or this call or this person's wanting me to do this, or they'll come in on the phone with the scammer and we pick the phone up and talk to them and instantly it's done and over with. So I think it is getting there, and we'll keep pushing that. Something we've been working on, and I'll give a lot of kudos to Captain Butler and Sergeant Haas on this one, is we've kind of ran our 2-year call volume, and we've noticed that the calls we are dealing with now, and I'm sure a lot of it is due to piggyback off Kyle, but mental health and substance abuse climbing, is we've had a lot of higher threat nature calls. as far as threats to public and threats to the responding deputies. We've noticed that the severity of those has started to rise quite a bit. And so what we are working together with, and we knew we couldn't do it on our own, but we also knew you had to have a smaller work group to get it started with, is we're mirroring some other agencies in the state of Iowa that have like tri-area or quad area regional TAC teams per se. And so those are your higher end trained, better equipped group of individuals that can handle some of these higher threat calls. I mean, we take a lot of pride in our office in our training and our abilities to handle those things. But sometimes that next level is needed and you can't always rely or wait on the state to get their team out to do it. So we're looking at the actual name for this, but we want it to be like a search and rescue TAC team. Anytime you put search and rescue in front of something, you can get a lot of federal grants and money and different things like that, which it would be utilized for that as well. But there's a lot of finances out there available on grants if you implement it that way. So we are working with Harrison County currently to start this, get this team off the ground, get it running, get all the pre-planning, the policies, the procedures, all of that stuff done, and then it'll just be a financial thing. And really the financial thing is basically a little more training and some better equipment. And so at the end of the day, those are all things we want to push for anyways. So we're not out of our realm or guidance of what we want to do moving forward. We're just going to do it with a group of people that we know are trained to a certain ability. And we are having a actual testing dates, physical and examinations coming up actually the end of this month for that team. We don't think we'll actually get off the ground until next January or after, by the time we get everything implemented and the training done. But we want to have our ducks in a row. So those guys have been running with this full head of steam, like I said, Captain Butler and Sergeant Haas. So I'll give them a kudos.
Individuals you're looking at on the team?
So they're looking at hopefully around a 13-member team.
Comprised of kind of current?
It would be current deputies from Harrison and Shelby County. And we believe we would branch that out a little more to maybe include like Cass and Audubon, or some other neighbors if we needed better numbers. But the initial startup has to be small group to get through all the bread and butter stuff and the deep waters, I guess, before we can actually say, hey, here's all of our guidelines. This is already set in place. Now we'll take like Cass County has great resources in their dog programs, and they have great resources in their drone programs. So now you reach out and you pull in these other units from around and just build that team. But it's a pretty common thing across the state of Iowa. I know you get up by like Okoboji, they've got an area team. Pot County is big enough they have their own. Polk County is big enough they have their own, but sometimes you can't wait for your neighbors to deal with things, so you activate your local team, and they are higher and trained, and their abilities are a little higher to deal with these high threat calls that we're starting to see. So, been working with a lot of partners for the Lucas Oil Race. We're gonna, as the Sheriff's Office, we're gonna be doing some security stuff for that this year. We did have a guy down there last year, but realizing the population that it brings in, we're going to dedicate a little more stuff to that, which brings me into my next point. We were working with the Fair Board a little bit as well for security at concerts and different things like that. So Taryn and I have talked a little bit, but really it probably needs to be on agenda to figure out how we as the Sheriff's Office want to pay those extra duties for those people, because I really don't want a road guy to have to go down there and then I take a guy off the road. We do some wedding securities and things like that in our county as well, because they're required by law to have somebody if they're serving alcohol. So we just need to figure out a way to actually pay those individuals for doing that, so that they still have powers of arrest and powers of everything, and they're not acting as a security officer, but they're acting as a deputy who's just maybe working an overtime shift or something like that, so that all their rights and powers are still enabled to them, and they don't have to still call the on-duty guy to come down and take care of the problem.
Sure.
So we're working through the weeds on that a little bit as far as, benefits and pay and different things.
Do the events pay for some of that stuff too then, or?
They will. So I think what we've talked a little bit about is paying as like an overtime shift at that rate and taking everything out of it as normal, but then charging the events like the Fair Board and things like that, the reimbursement pay back to the county. So we just need like a
Some of the fire department, I think is what they do.
Yeah. So something we're working on and talking about. So. We did purchase, when I was talking about drones a little bit, the Sheriff's Office has purchased from HCS Ag at a pretty good deal. They gave me a pretty good deal on it, but we did purchase an interior drone. That's kind of the new wave, I guess. Anytime we're doing entries of any sort on our search warrants on barricaded subjects. They're basically breaching, and I don't know if you guys have seen the Cedar Rapids officer involved shooting that they had, but it was a long hallway in an apartment complex, and they actually put the drone up. They flew it down the hallway, they turned, they had full visual of the suspect. They knew exactly, how they were communicating with this person, and these things are pretty darn cool. So I've got my Part 107 pilot license as well as Chief Deputy Eccles, and we've flown it a few times, and man, we can take that thing through our sheriff's office in like 6 seconds. The abilities these things have are crazy. Nice. So we got that all paid for on a grant. So it didn't cost the county anything. We did get some grant money for that. We're looking at a second one, so we can each carry on full time with us. But that's something that would be implemented into that TAC team. Just, I'd rather have a drone get injured than one of my guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Huge safety.
So, and we get a better bird's eye view with that thing on some of those cases we're going to. So, Kyle talked about opioid money a little bit. We did get the Shelby LPR license plate reader camera up and installed. About the time we had it up and installed, a light pole went out next to it. So we only had daytime stuff, but they're getting that fixed on there, and so it should be, I think it actually is fixed now. So it works pretty well. We've already utilized it on several occasions. I spoke with the city of Elkhorn. They are looking at wanting us to put one in their town as well, which would be great for us. And I might use maybe their water treatment plant on the south side of town that has Wi-Fi and everything else embedded. So I'm working with Austin a little bit and the city over there to figure out that route. We've got quite a few upcoming trainings going on. I'm sending the last of my guys that haven't been to it are going to a CIT course, which the region pays for. It's a pretty expensive course, and I know the jail's sending several of them, 2 or 3 of them, got 2 of them for sure. It's a week-long training, but it's basically in crisis intervention training, how to talk, how to work through some of these situations with these people. It's phenomenal training. And all the guys that I've sent to it didn't want to go to it per se, but when they come back from it, they're like, wow, that was helpful.
They don't know.
Exactly. Everybody should go to that. I think this will be the last time the region actually pays for it.
Yeah, the region's disbanding effective June 30th, so Solution Points, they limit it to 22 people per class and 1,600 per person, and the region covers that, and it's real hands-on. You do classroom for the first 3 days, and the last 2 days you're actually acting it out, and you have to act out, participate.
It's great training.
It sounds like
Taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I have several admin from my office as well as a few deputies going to a FLETC use of course training to try to help on liability side of things, keep us all in check, keep us up to date on our policy and procedures. We actually got FLETC to bring that out to us. So Sergeant Haas has been very active in working with area like teams like FLETC and 88 Tactical and some of these. We're trying to get more trainings in-house and then have other agencies come to us for the training to save on travel expense, hotels, things like that. So I think he's got 3 of them lined up for some higher end trainings for next year that are actually going to come out to our area, and this will be the first time we're hosting a lot of these. But thanks to Roger at the fire hall, he's going to let us use that. But it'll be nice to get these out here in our area where the guys can go home for the night, sleep in their own beds, and we don't have a hotel expense or travel and lodging and all that. So that's coming up next couple of months. We are going to use, if the public sees a bunch of deputies up at the old school up here coming up at the end of the week, we are going to utilize that school for a training before they demo it, and before they start ripping open asbestos and all that other stuff. We're going to get in there. So we actually they're leaving all the doors on for us, and we're going to finally be able to do some breaching stuff, which will be awesome. Some live breaching on actual doors.
Fly your drone through there.
Yeah, fly the drone through the school, work the whole thing. So if they see us up there this Friday or Saturday, we're going to be utilizing it before they demo it down. So it'll be good training. I am fully staffed, which is awesome. I'm down 1 guy due to a long-term injury, so hoping and praying that he can get fixed up and get back to work. He just had a pretty extensive surgery last week, and everything went well. So
I was going to ask you how he was.
Yeah. But I mean, I had another one that was out that had a surgery, and he is back 100% and running. And now I've got another one down, which you get large enough, 17, 18 guys, you're going to have people getting hurt. So. But he's in good hopes that he's going to return 100%, so we will give him the time to do so. We did have our fingerprint audit 2 weeks ago, Kyle, probably, week and a half ago, and we did get dinged a little bit on that. What we were struggling with was juvenile and getting fingerprints for them. So if you don't actually get a fingerprint off of an individual for a charge over a simple misdemeanor. Anything over a simple, it doesn't actually go on their criminal record. So we found a few lapses in the juvenile side of things because we knew things were going to get pled down or dismissed, and so we didn't get the print, but it still should have went in there and got on the record prior. It's not what they're charged with, it's what you arrest them on, essentially. So we figured out some workarounds for that. We've been working with the clerk's office, and actually I'm scheduling a meeting hopefully for next week with them to sit down and have face-to-face on processing side of things, because sometimes if we arrest somebody in OWI, but we gotta wait for their physical test to come back, we let them go that night. And then we go charge them with it later. Well, we miss the opportunity to get their fingerprints. So they're kind of in limbo of the system. By the time they go to court and do that, we miss them up there or vice versa. So we're gonna work with the clerk on developing a system to where they know we don't have them yet and they're required through an order to come back and get printed kind of thing. So we've got a meeting next week with Wendy and them up there to try to resolve some of that. But overall, they were happy with what we were doing. They already saw improvement from last year to this year. So I think that's about all I have. Do you guys have anything for me? Any questions or concerns?
Update on the tires.
I do have an update on the tires. I don't know how much of the update I can give on the tires this time, but I will say that case will be close very soon.
That'll be good.
So I have a good update.
Good deal.
Yeah. I will have a better one next time.
The speed trailer,
Yes.
any updates?
I just had another citizen actually bring it up to me the other day.
Me too.
And I said, you know what, we are in June, and this is where I see what I've got left to go do it. I've tried to find some grants or other ways to work around it, and there's just nothing specific to that really fits it. So I think it's gonna have to look at budget and Taryn and I can sit down and look and see where that might come from. I've got several quotes on them. You know, as you go into Logan, have you seen that one that Harrison County has there?
Yeah.
So I've actually worked with that company that Harrison County worked with, and theirs is nice because it maintains data. And data that I can pull just by being by the machine. I don't
Reading license plates.
Not that. That doesn't actually read it, but it records speed data.
Okay.
So like if I put in an area where we've got 10 complaints of, say Crest Haven, say Westphalia where it drops to 35, you know, some of those small towns, tenant, I can put it there for a week or two. And if we've yielded a lot of complaints, I can actually come back and say, well, I know it looks like everybody's going fast, but really I've only recorded 6 cars over the last 2 weeks that are over the speed limit, or so on and so forth, you know, and we can move it around and collect data, which will then help with my guys on where they need to work more, patrol more, sit more. So those trailers are nice, and I think the option for the trailer is the best option instead of the poles, because I can utilize the movement of it. You know, if we have an event, I can bring it in, set it up on the exterior side of that event, slow traffic down coming into that event.
With your badge on the side. It
Yeah,
really
just
stands
like
out.
Harrison's.
Really
That's why I
does.
like it. It's
Yeah.
got the big sheriff emblem on the side and everything else, and it's flashing bright. And
Yeah.
it's got the white light, almost like it's taking your photo and stuff. But what it's doing is it's just recording that speed. So, no, they're about $7,000, but I think that the utilization of it would be over time, you know,
Oh,
what
definitely.
outweigh that. So
Great.
we'll see what we can find.
Thank you, Neil.
You bet. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Any other department heads? All right, we will move into closing the meeting and going into a public hearing on the county budget amendment for fiscal year 2025 and adoption of resolution 2025-16. Karen?
Okay, there were a couple departments that had expenditures not originally budgeted. There were revenues that came in that weren't expected that covered these. In the end, this amendment didn't increase property taxes, and we actually had 63,000 excess revenue in this. A couple of them, election laptops that were purchased by one vendor that couldn't fulfill the order, so we had to go through another. So we had to double expense there. EMS salary, which they had charges for services that covered that. We had a retirement that was unexpected, and new hire in the veterans that we had increase in salary, but we're able to cover that.
So all the amendments are covered by revenue and everybody stayed within budget this year. That's good.
Very good.
So, You have to open it again to vote, right?
There's a
Close the hearing.
public comment.
Oh, public comment. Any public comment on resolution 2025-16? There being none, we will close the public hearing and open it up to a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion from Charlie,
Second?
second from Mike. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Anything further, gentlemen? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.